guys, welcome to Simplifying Tech and Programming. So in today's session we are going to check how we can use Spring Data Elasticsearch using SpringBoot Microservice. So for this I am using my blog in order to do hands-on and do the introduction part. So basically Spring Data helps to avoid the boilerplate code. For example, if you define the repository interface that extend the Elasticsearch repository interface that Spring Data Elasticsearch provides its CRUD operation, and for corresponding document class it will become very available by default. Okay, so basically if I introduce what is Elasticsearch, so it is a distributed and open source analytics engine for all types of data, including textual, numerical, geographical, structural and unstructured. So basically Elasticsearch, by using Elasticsearch we can do the analysis of your data in terms of logs, matrices and search backend or application monitoring. So there are multiple methods by using we can able to connect to Elasticsearch. Suppose for example we can use high level REST client or transport client or Java REST client. So instead of working with these manual connections with the Elasticsearch, so Spring comes with one repository, that is a Spring Data repository. By using that, we can auto configure the connection, so we don't need to care about the connections and other configurations. Basically Spring Boot provides the automatic configuration in order to connect with Elasticsearch. So it is basically a REST template abstraction that is providing a simplified the interface for the document operations and encapsulating the API request and response processing. So for that we are using Elasticsearch 7.9.2 and Java 8, Eclipse and Maven. Okay, so in earlier tutorials, so we have seen how we can install and configure Elasticsearch on the Windows system. Okay, so continue to that, so we are doing some practical setup. So with reference to above video, you can copy the setup files from the internet and install into Windows directory. Okay, so for Spring Data we are doing two configurations. So one is the adding the cluster, and one is adding the path data that is required for visualizing the index and node related data. Okay, so basically go to Elasticsearch home directory and locate the Elasticsearch YML file. Search home directory. This is my home directory. Inside this config and Elasticsearch YML, right click and say open with edit plus notepad plus plus. So here I have already specified the cluster name. So if in your case if you have not specified, you can give any cluster name, and this is the path data. So path to directory where to store the data, separate multiple location with comma. Okay, so this is the location where it will store the path data. Okay, then coming back to a configuration part. So so in the YML file, so we already done with these changes. So these are optional changes, so you can do for better visualization of the thing we are doing. Okay, so then go to the bin directory and just start the Elasticsearch. Okay, so just go to bin directory, Elastic home directory, and there is a elasticsearch.bat file. Just double click on that. So this will start the Elasticsearch. So it is saying that future version of Elasticsearch will require Java 11. So we are currently using Java 8 version. So for that it is supporting till I think 7.6 version of Elasticsearch. After that Java version is also required higher than Java 8. So in latest version of Elasticsearch, in 8.2 Java version is also required Java 17 or later. So in later part we will see how we can upgrade from Java 7 Elasticsearch 7 to Elasticsearch 8. Okay, so meanwhile it is starting up. we can go to the so while it is starting, so we can go to the project setup. So create the Spring Boot from the spring.io. So just go to spring.io in order to create the Spring Boot project. Go to Spring Initializer. Let's see if our Elasticsearch is started. It is still starting up. Okay, so here like I choose Maven project, then Java 2.7.0 for now, and then group com dot, we can provide any custom name, so I am giving simplifying tech. Okay, and then we can give project name as Spring Boot Elasticsearch example. Okay, so com.stech. Okay, then packaging is jar version is 8. So we need to add the dependencies, so click on add dependency. So we are using Spring Web, that is the first dependency. This is a basic dependency. Then we need the Spring Boot dev tools also, and then we need Elasticsearch. So this Spring Data Elasticsearch, this also we need. So these three libraries we need to choose, and just say generate. So our project is created. Now just import this project into Eclipse. Okay, so copy this. So I will paste it here, extract it here. Okay, so it is extracted. So go to Eclipse, say right click and import existing Maven project. So next, say finish. So meanwhile it is importing. Let's see if Elasticsearch is started. So we can see security is disabled, health is from red to yellow for reasons, charts are started. So let's verify it. So go to browser and type localhost:9200. So our cluster name is populating here, that is simplifying tech that we have given in our application.yml file, this one. Okay, and the version is 7.9.2 Elasticsearch version, and it is started. Okay. So now it is importing Maven project. Okay, so our project importing is done. So it has downloaded all the required dependencies. So just see if it is configured properly. So we have the Spring Data Elasticsearch library. So it has downloaded this all the artifacts. This is the Spring Data Dev Tools, Spring Boot starter test, and this is the Spring Boot plugin. Okay, this is starter web. So all dependencies are proper. So let's go to blog again. Okay, so this step is done. Now we have imported the project. So just go to application.properties, and just we need to define the cluster name and the cluster node port. Okay, so go to application.properties, src main resources, just paste it here. So Spring Data Elasticsearch cluster name that we have given in the elasticsearch.yml, and then cluster node is like localhost 9300. Okay, so now let's start creating our user specific logic in order to connect with Elasticsearch. So first of all, like we can set up this application for Spring Data by using the simple 3 steps. One is we can create the model class, then we have to create the repository interface, and we have to create the controller class. So you can consider this MVC architecture, and inside that like we can fit all 3 artifacts. Okay, so create the model class. So let's create the Pojo class and map the simple data objects into Pojo class, and we have to give the @document annotation in order to create this Pojo class or connect this to Elastic document. Okay, so copy this code and create class employee. So first create one package, so that is com.sdoc.model. Okay, then I'll create another package, com.sdoc.repository. Okay, so inside this model class, model package, create the employee class. Okay, so here paste the code. Okay, so just say Ctrl+Shift+O in order to import the packages. Okay, so here this is the simple Pojo class where we are defining some employee artifacts, like one is like ID. So this field we are declaring as a @ID. That means this is the primary key. Then we have the first name of the employee, then last name of the employee, and then age of the employee. So here we are annotating this @document. So this document is like a Elasticsearch annotation document. Okay, so where we are defining some properties for our document, so that is the index name. So this is the index name where it will like insert this data. Okay, so we are doing some CRUD operations, so inserting data and fetching data. So for that CRUD operation we are using this index. Then shards is 1, so by default like currently we are giving shards as a 1. So shards is basically like so where it will create the index, so it will create the index on top of the shards where it will store the documents. Okay, so replica we are defining as a 0. Then refresh interval is 1s. So refresh interval is nothing but like while inserting data into Elasticsearch, so we can keep the refresh interval timings. So there like refresh interval should be like 1 second, 2 second, or -1 second. So at the time of like updating that index, so this refresh interval is useful, and this create index equal to true property to create the index. Okay, so then we have to generate the getter setters manually. So just say right click and say source and generate getter setters. So we have to select all the fields and say generate. Yeah, so our Pojo is created. So now we have to create the repository. So we have to create the interface which is extending Elasticsearch repository. So this Elasticsearch repository is provided by SpringBoot. So like which is the repository provided by Spring Data implementation for Elasticsearch operation. Like previously we have JPA repository or Mongo repository or Cassandra repository in order to connect with Elasticsearch or particular Mongo database or Cassandra database, and we can get the connection object and we can perform the CRUD operations on that. So just create the interface. So it's the employee repository. Just paste the, okay, so this we will see later. So just say Control Shift O in order to import the packages. So what it is doing, so we are creating our own employee repository, which is extending Elasticsearch repository, and we are passing the Pojo class to Elasticsearch repository. So this Elasticsearch repository is I mentioned you, so it is the handler for your Spring Boot and Elasticsearch. Okay, so just save it. Now we can map this repository with the controller. Okay, so for that, go to controller implementation. So here we are adding the REST calls supporting to Elasticsearch repository for fetching and inserting the JSON data into Elasticsearch using Spring Data. Okay, so copy this. I will tell you what it is. So just say Control Shift O in order to import the packages. So here for list we are using java.util.list. So our packages are imported. So this is the @Spring Boot application, and we are declaring annotation as a REST controller. Okay, so we are using this employee repository in order to use this Spring Data. So we can see what it is saying. So create this method find my first name. So we are fetching data by using custom custom field. Okay, so for that, we have to create this method inside our interface, that is the employee interface. So here, so it is automatically created. So list employee, so find by first name. So what we are doing, so I will tell you. So we are doing CRUD operation by using Spring Data. First objective is, so what we will do, so first we will insert some data into Elasticsearch by using Spring Data. So connection object and everything, that will be auto configuration provided by this repository. Okay, so this is the first REST call. So we are using the post mapping. So what post mapping will do, so it is the basically annotation which will composed annotation act as a shortcut for request mapping method. So request method dot post, so it will post the data into like a REST call to Elasticsearch. Okay, so this is the request body. So this is the list of employees, and here employee.toString and repository.saveAll. So this is the insert query for employee object. Okay, and it is returning the size. So whatever the array we are providing to saving, so that will insert it. Okay, so then we have inserted so here we have inserted this data, so as a part of CRUD operation. So we have created this. Now we have to fetch the data. So we can fetch the all data in that index whichever we have inserted. So for that we are using find everything. So what it will do, so it will find the all employees listed into that index. So here we are using repository.findAll. Okay, okay, then we can use the customize search mechanism where by using employee first name, so we can able to find the names of the employee by using this gate mapping. Okay, so we have the sample data. So let's start using this. Okay, so first we have to run this application. So just save it. So now let's start the application. So right click on Spring Boot application and say run as Java application. Okay, so this way we have started the application. So Spring Boot application is started on port 8080, and it is now ready to use. So we will perform some CRUD operation. We will post some data and we will fetch some data. So for that we are using postman. So by using postman, like we can able to hit the REST calls. Okay, so first we want to post the data, so we will select the post method, and then we say http localhost, http localhost 8080 and our method. So what is our method? So method is save employee. So copy this. Okay, so now we have to post some data. So for that, like select the body, select the raw, and select JSON application. So we are posting data in the format of JSON. So go here, I have some sample data already here. So copy this is into JSON format. So here we are just mapping our employee structure, that is the ID, first name, last name, and age. So copy this, go to postman and paste it here. Okay, so this data is ready to be inserted into Elasticsearch by using Spring Data. So just send it. Yeah, so we got the output as a 2. So 2 records are inserted into Elasticsearch. Let's see, verify. Yeah, so we got this data. So we got the JSON whichever is printed here. So here we have printed this employee.toString. So a call came here from postman, and like it is inserted into this repository.saveAll, means it is inserted into Elasticsearch. So how we can verify that? So we can like use next API to find everything. So copy this, and these 2 records are inserted. So one is ID 11 and one is ID 21. Okay, so verify it. Now go here, open one more tab, and now we are hitting the GET request. Okay, so print again http localhost 8080 and find everything and say send. Yeah, so we got the content. So we got 2 records, one is ID 11 and one is ID 21. So whatever the data we have inserted from here, like this ID 21 and ID 20, ID 11 and ID 21, so we got it here 11 and 21. So like this we can like fetch the data and we can insert the data. So one more thing is there, so we can fetch particular record also. So we are using find by first name. Okay, so here you can see what see, find everything, what will happen. So repository.find all, so it will use the Spring Data Elastic repository to fetch all data from this index. So this index, it is inserted into this employee IDX, and from here, so we are fetching the data. So now fetch some particular record. So copy this, find by f name. So go to postman, open another tab. Again we are using get request. So here http localhost 8080 and paste the method we have copied, and then which first name we have to find. So let's say Johnny, JONNY. Okay, so here we want to fetch this record, okay, with ID 11. Okay, send it. Yeah, so we got this record from Elasticsearch. So we just hit this API in order to get this data with first name Johnny. So find by first name Johnny. So how it is working? So here we are sending the first name, so here it is coming find by first name. So and we are passing this first name. So here it is using path variables to take the input values from the request, and here it is using this method find by first name from this repository. Okay, so this is the interface we are using. Yeah, so this way we can find the particular record also, and we can find the all records and we can insert the records, okay, by using this Spring Data Elasticsearch and using ElasticsearchRepository in order to connect with Elasticsearch. Okay, so all details I mentioned here, each steps I mentioned in the blog, so you can refer the blogs from video description, and you can download the source code from this link from the GitHub. So in the next session, we try to cover the query DSL by using Spring Data Elasticsearch. So that will be more detailed to find the particular records by using Elasticsearch Spring Data. Okay, so stay tuned and thanks a lot for watching.